What's up, my fellow frilly folk? It is I, the Bard in Bows, and I have another package. So the other night I was on Closet Child, staring at all the things, and my dad had been talking about doing like an Alice in Wonderland themed event, and I realized that I actually had absolutely no Alice in Wonderland print anything, which is so weird. So I decided to just hop on, Closet Child and see what I could find. And I ended up finding this Alice and the Pirates blue, like Wonderland print with like these black bows and the black detailing, because I'm very like Disney Alice. Like I like the black, the white, the blonde, the blue. So I was really excited. I may have to alter it, which if I do alter it, I'm definitely gonna show you guys like what my process is for that. But anyway, here we go. Yee. I love buying myself presents because I have no self-control. I also got a headpiece as well as a little ring, so I'm gonna show you guys the accessories first. Perfect. Ooh, oh, this ring is so cute. Yes. Ooh, they got more wrapping. I love like big ass rings like this. Oh my god, oh, it's heavy. Okay, so I got this, this like white rabbit. I'm trying to make sure that it's in focus, but it's this metal white rabbit. It looks like pewter. It definitely needs a shine, so I'm probably going to clean it up a little bit. If you don't know how to clean like pewter and silver, lukewarm water with some aluminum foil at the bottom, baking soda, you let it sit, and then you scrub it with a toothbrush. There's also cleaner that you can get, but yeah, I love it. So that's that. This is gonna be my Alice head bow. Pretty basic. Yeah, pretty standard, basic black head bow. I wanted something really simple, something that I could cord with other things. I may end up doing like more with this piece, but yeah, and I may add some like lace or something, but yeah, pretty standard. And now the dress. All right, yes, okay. Yeah, I fell in love with this print, and if you see the lace here, it has the, like the spades, hearts, clubs, diamonds, so it has like the little suits. And I love this blue. I'm obsessed with like dusty pastels, so not like bright, but like a little more like earthy tone to them. Oh, it's so pretty! Oh my gosh, the buttons are little hearts! Look at that! Oh god, and I love the weight to it. I know that like there's that argument between cotton and polyester, but I love a dress with good weight. I love the back ruffle. Like anything that's kind of open like this, whether it's the front or the back, I'm all about. And of course it has the little black bows. And my god, I just love this print. And you just have like, you have the Mad Hatter, you have the March Hare, the Dormouse is sleepy. Look at the little Dormouse. And I love the clocks. Oh, and there's Alice. It's called like Alice Symphony or something. Let me see if they gave me the thing. Nope. That's okay. Anyway, so yeah. So just another quick little unboxing video. It may end up fitting me. May end up, may not, because it's Alice and the Pirates, and Alice and the Pirates doesn't like me, even though I love them. But that's okay. Yay. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. I'm really excited for my new kill. Okay, that's it. Ciao. So this is very much going to be more of a process video than a tutorial. I am almost completely self-taught.
And there are a lot of really great sewing tutorials out there. So this is mostly just sort of my own personal method to altering my brand, because I've altered a couple of dresses now. And the first thing that I want to do is take off all of the little danglies that are going to get in the way. And while I'm doing that, I also want to take a look at the construction of the dress. This is a little bit different than what I've done so far because it's kind of in three pieces. We have the shirring back here. We have this sort of open extra ruffle in the back, which is going to be great. And of course we have the rest of the dress. So I'm going to have to essentially separate this into three different pieces. I have everything that I need. I have my dress, so pretty. And then of course, I have my tools, I have my scissors, and I have my seam ripper. Both are going to be really important, obviously. I also have a couple of mimic fabrics. So I have this scrap here that I tea stained to reflect the color of the ruffle. But very importantly, I actually made mimic fabric. You can go to Spoonflower, you can upload your own designs so that I can make a replica back shirring. And then of course I have my elastic here so that I can have more of a stretch. Now my bust is about 115 centimeters and the dress bust is about 98 centimeters. So as much as I hate it, we're gonna have to do a little math. We need about 17 extra centimeters than what we've got. The first step is going to have to be taking this thing apart. If you see here, this has some very nice, delicate lace that the corset lacing goes through. So I'm going to have to be real careful because I don't want to damage that. And then of course we also have this really lovely card lace on the back ruffle. So yeah, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is you want to try and separate the two pieces that you are going to be separating. Try and get in as close as you can. You really don't want to damage the fabric. Take your seam ripper here, insert behind the thread, just like so, like that, and then start pulling. And don't really be that afraid of this. This is probably the scariest part of the process, is tearing into this dress that you just spent a bunch of money on. But so long as you keep the lips, the ledges of the fabric intact, you're going to be able to re-sew it pretty easily. Now, once you have both sides of the shirring totally detached, the next step is to get it detached from the skirt. You can see here that there's a little bit of a stretch, which means there's elastic there. Now, detaching the ruffle is going to be the same process as detaching the sides of the shirring. So I just went ahead and did this part off camera because it's essentially the same thing. And we're going to go straight to separating the top of the ruffle to the bottom of the shirring. Just as before, you want to be real careful because you have your lining you're dealing with here. The shirring didn't actually have any lining. Same deal as before, just get in there, start pulling it apart. Once I have my back ruffle successfully removed from the dress, I am going to then completely remove the rest of the seams that are attaching the shirring to the dress. You can see here that the hidden elastic is also visible. And the greatest thing about removing the shirring is it's also going to open up the waist a little bit, because most skirts on cupcake and bell-shaped dresses are going to have that gathering, and letting it out is really going to help in the waist department. So the first thing, once you get your shirring out, is I gotta see how long this stretches to help me with my formula. Looks like it stretches about 34 centimeters. And adding the 34 into account, because remember I need 17, I'm looking for a total of 51 centimeter for my shirring. And then once you're done with the old shirring, you can, give it to your cat or something. I don't know.
Hello. Look at him, he's so cute. Yes, hi.
Anyway, so next I want to measure the new waistline of my dress to make sure that it's going to fit. It looks like for a flat lay, I'm dealing with about 52 centimeters. Now my actual waist is 101 centimeters, and doubling the flat lay gives me about 104 centimeters, which means we are totally in the clear as far as waist measurements. Next, we're actually going to be making the new shirring. So I have my mimic fabric. I have a little extra. You always want to get a little bit more. Spoon flour is great if you've never tried it. Next, I want to lay out all my fabric and see that I'm actually at 62 centimeters, which is fabulous. You always want more fabric than you think you're going to need, because I promise you it is going to shrink. Once I have all my fabric laid down, I take my cutest pin cushion, and here's what I do to pin the fabric together. I want to do what's known as an invisible seam. So I put the fabric print side together like a sandwich, and then I take my flathead pins and I just start pinning. Once I'm done with that, I want to keep the pins in, put it down in my sewing machine, make sure everything is nice and lined up, and start finally some sewing. And then, of course, once you're done sewing all your pieces together, you want to make sure and double check that you are within your limit. I believe, yes, I am at about 57 centimeters, which is way more than I need still. Fantastic. The next thing is we want to measure out the elastic that's going to go into the shirring. Rather than measuring out 57 centimeters of just, elastic as is, what you want to do is stretch it to the 57 centimeters. That way, when it is relaxed on the hanger, it will be relaxed. It won't be too small, it won't be too big, it will conform to the body. You can mark it with a marker. I like to just sort of get my initial measurement and then fold a couple of times, snipping at the top, just to make sure that everything is kind of uniform and about the same size. The next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing some inside lining for our shirring. This is just the way that I do it. The original dress did not have any lining for the shirring. It actually sewed the elastic all the way down across the original shirring, but this is sort of the easiest way that I do mine. Take some chalk, line it out, and then boom, you have some lining. Once you have that lining, you want to, again, just like with the pieces of fabric for the shirring, make sure that it is print side inside while you are sandwiching your two pieces together. Also make sure your cat doesn't destroy your camera. Take your flathead pins from your super cute pin cushion and pin it out. Okay, once you have everything pinned together, the next thing you want to do is you want to take your elastics and kind of folding the shirring pieces over so that you don't have to deal with too much of the stretch, you want to flat lay your elastic pieces and then pin them on either side so that they are all nice and even. And then, of course, do that to however many bands of elastic you're going to need. Once everything is flat laid, go ahead and sew the ends of your elastic to the ends of your shirring fabric. You also want to sew the ledge just above your closest piece of elastic so that you can get a really nice and visible seam at the top. Now, once everything is sewn in, you're going to flip it inside out, kind of like a pillowcase, and we see we have our lovely invisible seams. Everything's nice and orderly, and now comes probably the most irritating part in altering any dress with back shirring. The technical inspector needs to make sure that everything is up and running, because if your machine hiccups, if they have any kind of issues, this is not going to end well. So make sure that all of your mechanics are up to snuff, and then it's time to make rows of thread in between your elastic. So this is very, very tricky. What you want to do is try and hold the elastic you're sewing away from where you're going to be sewing, because the last thing you want is to accidentally sew your elastic in place. This is essentially creating almost kind of like cornrows in between your elastic. You're going to want to stretch your fabric as you go down so that you are getting a nice, flat, even space to sew. It is very irritating. I'm sure that there are far more detailed tutorials about how to do shirring, but this is the way that I know, and it's probably the most effective. Yeah, you will mess up on this part. I did. Next up, we have to see how wide the top ruffle needs to be in order to accommodate the new waist. So first, I need to measure the open space where the shirring will go. It looks like we're looking at about 26 centimeters. Now, the top ruffle is going to be a little too short, but measuring the bottom ruffle, or the second ruffle, I see that I'm about 27 centimeters, so that's going to work perfectly. I just need to remove this top ruffle here and fold over the top piece of fabric so that I have a nice seam allowance for when I attach it. So because I needed to add a bottom ruffle in order to keep the regular length, because I'm taking off the top ruffle, so obviously I'm going to need to add to the bottom, I found initially this piece of white fabric that I tea-stained to match the color of my ruffle. Unfortunately, I did not have enough scrap in order to ruffle it correctly. As you can see, the layer ruffles of the original piece they're gathered, and I just didn't have the amount of fabric I needed. So I was really worried at this point because I didn't know how I could fix this. This wasn't looking great. until I remembered that I had a skirt of the exact same color with a fantastic ruffle just sitting at the bottom of my closet. So always be a hoarder, because that usually will save the day in crafts projects. They were looking a little dingy, so I decided to toss them in like an old petticoat, a little bit of bleach in some water, set it on cold, and give it a little wash to brighten it up a bit. Now, while those guys were watching, it was time to add the shirring. So the first thing I did was I made sure that everything is going to be pinned correctly. The difficult part about creating the shirring, which is the actual creation part, is over. The next bits are going to be a little bit easier. Fortunately for me, this dress has a really nice seam allowance already built in for the shirring. So I just need to sort of stick it in the lip and pin it, and then make sure that everything is sewn in. It is very important to line up the shirring with the edge of the JSK because you don't want to sew this in lopsided. It will affect your bust in the end. Now, you may have noticed at this point that there is the lacing for the corset back. I actually hand reattached it off camera because it's 3-dimensional lace and I didn't want to feed it through my machine. And there's this little edge here that can be really easily taken off with just a little snip. Here is the shirring attached to the back of the dress, and all that's left is the ruffle. So I laid the new clean skirt down on the table and I put the original ruffle on top of it to kind of get a better idea of how it's going to lay and about where I need to cut off this ruffle so that I can attach it to the top layer. So hanging up the dress, I start pinning the original ruffle to the edges of the skirt, and then underneath the original ruffle, I start really just fidgeting with the new layer just to kind of make sure that it's not going to look sloppy, it's not going to be longer than the rest of the dress because that will look very awkward and stand out. This takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of patience, and this is really just your own best judgment. And I think I got it pretty okay. Once I have everything pinned, I want to lay it flat and sort of fold the new layer into that sort of triangular slope so that everything will be nice and uniform once I sew it in. And of course, I can always trim off the excess. And then, of course, you know the drill. Start sewing. After I have everything sewn together separately, I put it in the slot where it is going to go, and I start pinning it to the edges of the skirt. Now, you've noticed by now, possibly, that the second pair of 3-dimensional lace is not attached. That's because the same with the corset lacing lace, I'm actually going to be attaching that off camera by hand so that when it does get attached, it looks nice and lovely and nothing is ruined. And then finally, the last step is attaching our back ruffle and our bottom lining with the bottom of our shirring. And here it is, Completely finished. Of course, now that it's all done, there's only one thing left to do.